The woman in the back seat of the crushed luxury sedan had only seconds left to live. Rain poured across the empty highway, glass covered the pavement like frozen tears, and smoke curled into the dark sky. Cars slowed down, drivers stared, a few recorded videos from a distance, but only one man ran toward the wreck without thinking about the danger. He wasn't a firefighter, a police officer, or a hero. He was a tired single father rushing home to his little daughter after working an exhausting double shift. That night, he saved the life of a billionaire, and disappeared before she could even learn his name. Before we continue, if you believe kindness always finds its way back, if you believe one selfless act can change someone's destiny, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who still believes in good people, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that restore faith in humanity. Ethan Carter had never expected life to become so difficult. 5 years earlier he had buried his wife after a sudden illness, leaving him alone with their 3-year-old daughter, Lily. Since then every sunrise had been another battle. He worked as a mechanic during the day, delivered groceries in the evenings, and sometimes drove for ride-share companies late into the night. Every dollar had a purpose. Rent came first, Lily's school supplies came second, and groceries came third. There was never enough left for himself. His clothes grew older each season, his boots leaked when it rained, and the old pickup truck he drove sounded like it was ready to fall apart. Yet despite the hardships, Ethan never allowed bitterness to enter his heart. Lily's smile was enough to remind him that he still had something worth fighting for. That rainy evening he was running later than usual. Lily was staying with their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Brooks, who always waited up whenever Ethan had to work extra hours. He hated making them wait. Every minute felt like he was stealing time from his daughter. The rain became heavier as he drove along the mountain highway, and visibility dropped to almost nothing. Then headlights flashed wildly ahead, followed by a deafening crash that echoed through the storm. Without hesitation Ethan slammed on the brakes and sprinted toward the accident. A black luxury sedan had collided with a guardrail after swerving to avoid a truck. The front of the car was destroyed, and smoke poured from the engine compartment. Inside, a woman was trapped beneath twisted metal. Blood ran down her forehead, and she struggled to breathe as the damaged vehicle threatened to burst into flames. Most people would have waited for emergency crews. Ethan didn't. He grabbed a heavy metal rod lying beside the road and forced the driver's door open inch by inch until the bent frame finally gave way. Every movement sent sharp pain through his shoulders, but he ignored it. He carefully unfastened the woman's seatbelt, shielding her from broken glass as flames began licking beneath the hood. Just as he dragged her a safe distance away, the car exploded into a ball of fire that illuminated the rain-soaked highway. The woman lost consciousness almost immediately. Ethan checked her breathing, removed his jacket to keep her warm, and stayed beside her until sirens filled the air. Paramedics rushed in, taking over with professional speed. Police officers began asking questions, but Ethan glanced at his cracked phone and realized Lily had already fallen asleep waiting for him. Quietly, without asking for recognition, he slipped away before anyone could stop him. The next morning television stations across the country reported the miraculous survival of Victoria Langston, the billionaire founder of one of the nation's largest technology companies. Reporters called it a miracle because doctors insisted she would have died inside the burning vehicle if an unknown man hadn't rescued her within the first minute after the crash. Every news outlet wanted to identify the mystery hero, but no one knew who he was. Highway cameras had been damaged by the storm, and witnesses could only describe him as an ordinary man wearing a worn brown jacket. Ethan barely noticed the news. His own life demanded every ounce of his attention. The landlord had posted another overdue rent notice on his apartment door. Lily needed new shoes because she had outgrown her old pair. His pickup truck needed expensive repairs, and the garage where he worked announced reduced hours because business had slowed. Some nights Ethan lay awake wondering how much longer he could hold everything together. Still, every morning he smiled for Lily because children deserved hope even when adults felt exhausted. Meanwhile, Victoria slowly recovered in a private hospital suite. Surrounded by wealth, expensive flowers, and influential visitors, she couldn't stop thinking about the stranger who had risked everything for someone he didn't even know. For years she had built companies, signed billion-dollar deals, and appeared on magazine covers, yet she suddenly realized that the greatest gift she had ever received came from a man who expected absolutely nothing in return. She hired private investigators, offered $1 million reward for information, and instructed every employee to help find her rescuer. Weeks passed with no success. One afternoon Ethan received devastating news. The apartment building where he rented a tiny unit had been sold to developers. Every tenant had 60 days to leave. Housing prices had become impossible, and Ethan couldn't afford anything nearby. He sat alone in his truck after work, staring at the notice in his hands, wondering how he could tell Lily they might lose the only home she remembered. Instead of giving in to despair, Ethan made another difficult decision. He accepted overnight shifts repairing delivery vans in another town, sacrificing sleep to earn enough money for a security deposit somewhere else. His body grew weaker each day, but he never complained. Around that same time Victoria insisted on personally reviewing thousands of tips sent to her office. Most were false. Some people even pretended to be the rescuer hoping to collect the reward. Then one security consultant discovered a small clue. A paramedic remembered wrapping the injured woman's body with an old mechanic's jacket that carried a faded logo from a neighborhood auto repair shop. Victoria visited the garage without announcing who she was. She wore simple clothes and no expensive jewelry, hoping no one would recognize her. When she walked inside, she saw Ethan kneeling beside an aging pickup truck, carefully explaining repairs to an elderly customer while refusing to charge her for unnecessary work. His hands were stained with grease, and exhaustion covered his face, yet kindness filled every action. She recognized him immediately. Instead of revealing herself, Victoria watched quietly. She noticed photographs of Lily taped inside Ethan's toolbox. She overheard co-workers talking about how Ethan often skipped lunch so he could save money for his daughter. She saw him help another mechanic whose own paycheck had been delayed. Every act confirmed that the man who had saved her wasn't extraordinary because of one brave moment. He lived that way every single day. When Ethan finally looked up, Victoria simply thanked him for fixing a loose tire on her rental car. He smiled politely, never realizing who stood before him. She left with tears in her eyes. Rather than offering money directly, Victoria understood Ethan's dignity. Charity might embarrass him. Opportunity would honor him. A month later the repair shop owner gathered everyone together with shocking news. A major transportation company had chosen their struggling garage to service hundreds of commercial vehicles under a long-term contract. The deal would double salaries, provide health insurance, and guarantee stable employment for years. No one knew that Victoria's company secretly owned the transportation business. Ethan's life finally began changing. He rented a small house with a backyard where Lily planted flowers. He attended her school recital without worrying about missing work. For the first time in years they celebrated her birthday with a homemade cake, balloons, and laughter instead of financial anxiety. Yet Victoria still felt she hadn't truly thanked him. Several months later the garage received an invitation to service vehicles during a charity event hosted by the Langston Foundation. Ethan volunteered, hoping to earn overtime pay. As he worked behind the stage, he suddenly heard the event announcer calling his name. Confused, he stepped into the spotlight. Thousands of people filled the auditorium. Television cameras turned toward him. Standing at the center of the stage was Victoria Langston. She walked toward Ethan with tears shining in her eyes. The audience remained silent as she explained how an unknown stranger had pulled her from a burning car before disappearing into the night. She spoke not about wealth or success but about humanity, reminding everyone that the richest person in the world becomes helpless when life hangs by a thread. She revealed that the mystery hero had never asked for recognition, money, or even gratitude because his greatest concern had been getting home to his little daughter. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Victoria presented Ethan with an award honoring courage and compassion, but the most meaningful gift wasn't a trophy or a check. She announced the creation of the Carter Family Scholarship, a nationwide program supporting children raised by single parents who work tirelessly despite impossible circumstances. Ethan's story would inspire thousands of families who often felt invisible. Lily ran onto the stage and hugged her father so tightly that neither could hold back tears. The cameras captured a moment far more valuable than any business headline. A little girl looked at her father not as an ordinary mechanic but as the greatest hero she had ever known. Ethan later admitted that saving Victoria had never felt like a choice. Anyone's life was worth protecting. He believed goodness should never depend on someone's bank account, social status, or ability to repay kindness. Those simple words spread across the country, reminding millions that true character appears when no one is watching. Victoria often visited Ethan and Lily afterward. They became close friends whose lives had crossed through tragedy but remained connected through gratitude. Together they supported charities for struggling parents, funded emergency rescue training, and encouraged ordinary people to help strangers without expecting rewards. If this story touched your heart, please support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with your family and friends, subscribing for more inspiring stories, and telling us which moment moved you the most. Before the ending, we have one special request: please leave a comment with the words, "Kindness always comes back," if you believe even one selfless act can change someone's life forever. Years later, people still remembered the billionaire who survived a terrible accident, but those who knew the full story remembered something even greater. They remembered a weary single father driving home through a storm after another exhausting day, carrying nothing except love for his daughter and goodness in his heart. He never expected recognition. He never searched for rewards. He simply chose compassion over convenience, courage over fear, and humanity over hesitation. In a world that often celebrates wealth, power, and fame, Ethan Carter proved that the greatest riches are found inside an ordinary heart willing to help a stranger. And perhaps that is why the night he walked away before hearing a single word of thanks became the very moment that changed countless lives forever.